So if we accept that there is going to be, a better way to like get this, if we have more police legitimacy, this happens, right? Naturally, is how do we seem more legit? Because if we have higher legitimacy, people are more likely to believe our actions. I'm less likely to use force. There's better trust and faith and confidence in police, right? And so, but the thing is, right, like not everyone's going to get that, right? And sometimes maybe people have some legitimacy options in you, but it's a limited, good. So you need to try to find a way to get it, right? So how do we get this more legitimate kind of thing? So if we think about this like within an encounter, right? So we'll do this from like within encounter. So within the encounter, right, if we think back to this traffic stop, there's a lot of different things that can maybe change or shape the way that you view the police officer or the stop itself and like its consequences, right? Because we might make judgments, right, depending on the stop, if I'm allowed to explain myself, right, in the process, right? So let's say that I was going through a stop. Does the officer allow me to explain, hey, what's going on today? I noticed this happened, right? So do I have an opportunity to say, like, yeah, I just wasn't looking. I know it's there. Yeah, I just like wasn't paying attention. Got it, right? Which you're admitting guilt, right? But you're being like honest to it. So maybe that's the way you want to go to it, right? Or maybe you just say I was confused by the speed limit signs because there are all these changes. I'm less familiar with it in this area. Or maybe like, I had a cat next to me and I was playing and the carriage is upset and passed the stoplight and he just didn't say it happened, right? So if I have like the citizen participation voice, right, it shows and demonstrates, right, that the police are willing to listen. So if people are willing to listen to me, the police officer solicits and understands what I'm going through and what I mean, right? Like that's going to be a net positive kind of thing, right? But related to this, right, we also want to feel like, the officer is, or we perceive the officer is neutral. We care about that because if someone seems like they have like an attitude or they're, harassing me for no good reason or they're like very angry, like hostile, right? We want to have this neutrality, right? Because then it gives the at least the appearance, right, of being unbiased and probably more likely to be fair, right? So if I give this sense of like, like, hey, like, like he didn't seem like he wasn't like trying to help me out, but he wasn't against me either. He just listened to it, stated the facts and what's going on, right? I have a better gumption of that, right? Because I understand maybe like the officer is trying to do their job versus if I think someone is, actively trying to harass me or give me issues or is like biased or racist or whatever, right? And I'm a very different opinion of that person, right? The other part we lead into it, right, is that if we need to, treat people with respect, right? So we're not, calling them names, we're not making fun of them because of their race or gender. We're not making, being too aloof or too familiar, right? We're giving deference to other people, we're not trying to like aggressively harm and harass them, right? And I think like the other part is going to be if you are able to convey trustworthy motives. So, if you're stopping because, hey, there's a lot of accidents in this area, people speed all the time, we're trying to keep an eye on it because there's been some stuff like that. Or maybe like, hey, we got to really, we've been asked to keep an eye on the stop signs. There's some runners that were almost hit. We want to try to make sure it's safe. Or maybe it's, if it's like a traffic light, hey, I saw your traffic light was out, what's going on? Versus someone who's like, does not communicate like any kind of motive or seems like actively hostile, right? We do all these things, right? So a quick way to like sort of like differentiate this, right, is that if we have procedural justness, this will in turn contribute to a higher level of police legitimacy, right? So we can call the procedural justice PJ is going to lead to an increase in PL, right? That's what we're ultimately trying to work with here.